Hello, I'm Natalia. I'm a social and video content marketer at Clockify, and in today's interview, I'll be talking to XayLi Barclay. So I've heard a lot about you from my colleagues and from Anna, and it's great to have you. So thank you so much for your time, dear. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Super excited to connect with you guys today.
Yeah, we are too. So there's a lot of things for us to discuss today. So you have like a lot of things that I want to ask you about. So you've been doing your business management, your visual content creation, all of your courses, building brands, helping and empowering people to do all of that. So those are just some aspects, right? So I haven't even gotten all of the details, but just some of the things. So before we start, would you be kind to explain, a little bit more to our viewers about yourself and what you do?
Well, hi, I'm XayLi Barclay. I am a visual content creation coach, but I specialize in video content. And I'm also a Thinkific expert. So I have a sweet spot of video for online course creators specifically. And I also do educational consulting in the online world for corporations that are looking to integrate online courses into their work. Let me grab some water. Yes.
Okay, so that's cool. So as I mentioned, you're doing a lot of things, and so how large is your business, and why did you decide to start it, and basically who are your clients? Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question. So there are so many intricate parts to my business, like you mentioned earlier. And so it changes by the season sometimes. It depends on what projects we're working on. So I do have a team of 3 people, and, that consists of my assistant, and I do have a creative director who helps me with video content and editing as well. So that's always pretty exciting. So we have the online course aspect where we teach people how to get confident on camera and how to really show up and shine. And that's my zone of genius. That's something that I absolutely enjoy teaching and helping others to do, because I know what it feels like to be afraid and to be nervous when you are on camera. So yes. So helping other people overcome those barriers so that they're able to build brand on video and expand is what we do with the Start, Shoot, Grow Video Academy. But other than that, I do lots of brand work and sponsorships. I host a huge annual summit with Thinkific called Think in Color, where we celebrate women of color working in the online space, which is super exciting. And I also do consulting. So I also work with corporations as well to figure out how to actually be engaging on camera, and also facilitate teaching their, not audiences, but their workforce, things that are changing, especially socially and around the world, like to keep people up to date with social changes and, the way that we are learning to do things now, than before.
So do you have like a number one tip, like off the top of your head, your number one tip for all of that?
Sorry?
Do you have like a number one tip off the top of your head when it comes to, exposing yourself in front of the cameras? Like, what do you usually tell your clients? Is there anything like one piece of advice that is like a whole, a general piece of advice that you'd have at the top of your head?
There are so many. I think my one would be, if I'm speaking to like creators or solo creators, people who are starting really small, or if you have a small business specifically, my start would be, make sure that you just get started. A lot of us are overthinking. We're overthinking so many different things. And I think a lot of us are afraid of putting things on camera and then remaining on camera and feeling like, oh my gosh, like, what if I say something wrong? What if I start building the wrong business? What if? There's so many what ifs. And the cool thing about video content is that it's you showing up. It's the way that we sell now, right? Or the way that we even interact or nurture or educate our audiences. And so The cool thing is when you start with video and you get yourself on camera, you're also building personal brand. So my brand has grown and expanded and shifted so much since I first started that it's absolutely insane. But I still am gaining new audiences. New people are finding me every day. So don't be afraid of doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing, because you can always rectify that, or get on camera and have a conversation about it.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
So since you mentioned how important and how practical video content is, right, for your business and showing up as your own brand as well, we have some statistics that some of our researchers found out. So basically, it says that 65% of people are primarily visual learners. So is that why you kind of chose to focus on video content? Have you noticed that kind of trend as well when it comes to visual content? And are there any other reasons why you opted, specifically for this type of content?
That's a really good question. I've been teaching video content since 2014, 2015. And I've always been an advocate for it. And just from my personal experience, when Facebook first got started, I loved, being able to write my thoughts, like, what are you doing or what do you want to say? That was really cool. But when pictures became a thing, and then video became a thing as well, like I remember being very visual with pictures or taking pictures or capturing moments, and craving for, well, what if we can say more or do more with video? And then it came along. And so I've been an advocate for video for such a long time. I mean, we have things like movies. Like if you leave the movies, there's a certain emotion attached to what you just watched or what you just took in, or you'll watch a documentary and it can completely shift your perspective on something that you thought you knew everything about. And so when we look at the power of movies and commercials, and these things have been around forever. And even in industry today, like let's look at trends. Let's look at Instagram said they're no longer a photo sharing platform, right? They're all about video.
Exactly.
All platforms are competing for video. And for me, this being 2022, thinking back to like the perspective or vision I had for video or people creating video or using video in their business, like everything right now is confirming all of that. And I don't feel like it's going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think it's just going to expand even more. We might get even more platforms where we can share video content and visual content. So I agree with you. So, okay, thanks for your insight. That's interesting to hear from someone so experienced. So that's a lot. You've got a lot of things that you have to do during the day. A lot of planning goes behind it, I'm sure. So how do you go about when it comes to actually, tracking your time and being productive with it and actually getting things done, when you set out to do them? How do you handle that part of it all?
Yeah, I have probably a bit of an elaborate process.
Okay.
So I'm not like a pro at this, but I will share what I do. The first thing that I need to do is brain dump. So I need to get everything that I need to get done out of my head. This way, if I write it down, or I would write it down, but I also put it in Notion so that my assistant can see it, and so she can take that, and then we disperse it like into Calendar. And so from Calendar, we make sure that everything is getting done. Of course, we think about things that are priority and things are of lower priorities. But I've also created specific dates for things in my business, because consistency is key, right? A lot of times as business owners, we get caught up in the little things that are not doing anything for our bottom line. So I think it's really important for us to create those buckets, or those days where we do specific things. Example, I know for me, I need a front-facing visible day, right? Where I'm making sure that I'm on social, or I'm creating content for the business, or I need to make sure I have a CEO day, which is usually on Mondays. That's where I'll get lots of tasks done, things for the business, because those are the things I dislike the most, like those little things that you need to take care of, paperwork, calls that you need to make. Like we handle all of that on Mondays. So I have those days kind of mapped out in my calendar, and that allows us to then input the tasks into the calendar. Because if it's not in my calendar, it's not happening.
It's not going to happen. Okay. It's good. It's a good thing that you have a calendar then.
Yes.
So what about prior to that? So before you actually came up with this, system of your own,
Yeah.
how did how did you actually come to tracking, your tasks and putting them into a calendar and doing this process?
Yeah, there was a time that I didn't. And so I saw the need, and I see so many entrepreneurs, especially starting off in online business. You probably have a 9 to 5, or you probably have been, in school. And so we live our whole lives with other people telling us exactly what to do and when to report to some place and all of those things. And when you become a business owner, you become an entrepreneur and you're working for yourself full time or even part time, you have to manage those hours that actually, would I'm trying to find the word. Your success depends on those hours or your time management, right? Because if
Exactly.
you're not managing that time correctly, that's a problem. It's easy to come home from work and feel like I'm too tired. And instead of getting home, getting a nap in and waking back up and putting some time into what you're doing. Or for full-time entrepreneurs, when you wake up on Monday and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm in charge of my full 24 hours. That's a problem if it's not planned out. And so I definitely went through that period. And for me, what happened is I called my dad. So my dad has had his own business forever. And when I felt unproductive and I felt like, well, I wasn't seeing the return that I wanted to see on my investments, my money investment, my time investment, I asked him, how do you do this? Like, how can I? Yeah. And he was like, okay, so walk me through your day. And so I told him, well, Dad, I work so hard and I was so proud of myself. Like, I'm working for hours and I'm getting so much done. And so I fall asleep with the computer next to me, and then I wake up and I roll over and I just get back on it. And he's like, well, no, you can't,
You can't be
can't
living
do
like
that.
that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So he kind of mapped out for me, like, the first thing that he did, because I watched him as a child and I swore that he worked for someone else because of his ethic and his discipline. Like, he would be
Wow.
up at 4 a.m., dressed, having breakfast and everything, and leaving the house. You would think that he worked for someone else. And that's one of the tips that he gave to me. Like, act as if you're not your own boss. And you do have to show up and be on time. And so I started thinking about that. And he said, and the other thing is, get ready. You've seen me get ready and leave the house for years. Like, you can't just roll over and get started. You need to prep yourself and put yourself in this space to get actual work done. And so I started taking those things into, perspective, and realizing, oh, I need a routine of sorts that I need to follow. And as much as we hate routines and we think, well, school and work, we have such routines, when you don't have a routine, it's harmful, right? And I had to really learn that lesson. And so then I started, like, okay, making use of my calendar, tracking my time, and thinking about, like, okay, so how much time am I spending on this or that? Or if this is not an income generating activity, then I probably need to monitor the time I'm spending on it. So instead of redesigning my website like 5,000 times, I need to make sure that I'm actually selling something on my website, or going live, or nurturing my audience, like things that would actually lead to income coming in. So I hope I answered that
Yeah,
there.
you did. It's great. So you had a good role model, right? You had someone to
Yeah.
actually help you, and you had, you could learn from the best, right? So you said that your dad's got a really good work ethic. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's great advice. I mean, if we all don't have dads like that, which I hope we all do. My dad's got a great work ethic as well. But for people that don't, they can always look up to someone similar, right? So
Yeah.
to maybe see someone who's got a kind of a work ethic or a productivity kind of goal that they would like to look up to them and maybe follow them or ask for a mentorship from them, something like that. So it's good advice.
I agree. Yeah. And we have so many people online sharing journey as well. So even if you don't, like, I remember going through a time in business where I felt like my immediate friends didn't understand. My friends from college didn't understand how serious I was and how much I wanted it. And so I tapped into podcasts and things like that and listened to those people. They became my friends for a bit. And it's crazy that now some of them are in real life friends that,
That's amazing.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of inspiration all around us. We just need to know
Yes,
what to look for, right?
exactly.
So you mentioned once that you used to work for more than like 16 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm guessing that eventually leads to burnout. And I think a lot of CEOs and people in general, freelancers, all different kinds of people face burnout eventually, especially working so much. So do you have like any pieces of advice, how to balance out your life so that you don't actually get to that point?
Yeah, and this is hard, right? It's a hard conversation. I feel like we're also coming out of a pandemic where we were all like locked inside for longer hour, well, for forever, but or what feels like forever. But we also worked more and didn't realize how much more we were working. So that in itself is, I know now even lots of my friends are feeling that burnout, right? So I feel like when I say balance, like you always have to reevaluate what that balance is for you because things are changing. Like, things are always changing. There's always change is the only constant that we have. So you always have to think about, so what may have worked 2 years ago or 3 years ago is not working now. And I think the first thing that you really have to center yourself with is mindfulness and realizing, and it's scary because we think the more hours we work, the more money we make. No. So that's
Okay.
the first thing I had to learn, that I was like, wait, what? Why didn't anyone tell me this? So no, it's really about understanding what's important. Or every single quarter, I sit down and I look at what brought in the most revenue in my business, like what did best, and what could I double down on? What could I really work harder at? And working smarter, like really working specifically on that thing, or moving it forward, or growing it, or nurturing it. So that's the first thing. Like, really look at what you've been doing and see how, like, I would see lots of time I would spend on something and I'm like, wait, that didn't do anything for me. We probably didn't even launch it. Like, like nothing came out of it, kind of thing. So being mindful, also keep an idea list. Like not everything has to be done or published. You can play with something. Like right now we're playing with a membership, and we just created a doc, and whenever I have a download or an idea, I'll get into it and I'll put it out. So if it comes into fruition, it will. And I had to learn that because I am also very impulsive. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I have this amazing idea. We need to launch this tonight. So, just understanding what you're really putting your time into, but really remembering that less is more. So think about the things that are really driving your business, that really make sense for what you're doing, and pour more time into those areas so that you're getting the results from them. It's kind of like, we all know that rule of, I forgot the name of it, but gosh, now my brain is trying to remember, but 20% of what we do brings 80% of the results, right? So it's like, it's not the other way around. So
I'm glad, luckily it's not the other way around.
right, think about it, but most of us are operating as if it's the other way around. So really being mindful of what you're doing and taking time away. So know your hours, like limit your hours, like say, I am working from this time to this time and that's it. And I'm going to cut off. And that's hard to do, I'll be honest, but it's so essential because rest is so important. And I didn't understand the power of rest when I first started. So I have so many lessons and hiccups, but those are a few tips for people that are just starting out.
That's cool to know. So when you mentioned that, you started tracking your time and you were really looking at, where your time is actually going, what was that process like? Like, how did you even get into time tracking? I know that you've been using Clockify. Like, how did you find Clockify, and, how long have you been using it, and how does it apply to all of this advice that you just mentioned to us?
Yeah, I started using well, I started tracking time years ago, probably not too long after that conversation with my dad, where he was like, "Hey, no, you need to be mindful of like what your day is like." And just realizing that I want to pre-plan my day and I want to really stick to it. So I started using a tool and I can't remember what it was at the time right now. I really can't. But obviously there was something about it that I didn't like, or I think I wanted, I can't remember what I was looking for, but I searched and I found Clockify. And what I loved is just how easy the interface is. And I know I still don't use it to its full potential, but what I really wanted from it were two things. I wanted it to pull from my calendar so that we can really create structure in my week from that calendar. And we're able to add that on the back end with Clockify, right? So I'm able to enter that time entry without, I'm at the point now where I don't actually time myself. Like I'll create blocks of time to get things done. But I did start off timing myself because I don't know, a clock to me feels like somebody's watching over me, right? So if I need to get something done, I am going to set a 15-minute timer. And I bet you by 7 minutes, 8 minutes, it's done. So I just feel like time is so precious. And for me, a lot of times, if there are things that I'm slacking on doing, if I set a timer, they will get done. I don't know what it is about my brain and a timer, it will get done. But seeing that layout for me was really, really important so that I can I can plan what's going on in my calendar, but also add that time. I was going through a time of burnout, right? As I mentioned before. And I felt like I wasn't seeing my investment of time or my investment of money. And so I needed to really understand. So that's the first thing, like track yourself loosely and see where that time goes. So that's how I was able to evaluate like what was going on for me, like, you know, what was working and what was not working, because it's kind of like when you are trying to eat healthy and you have to transition, you have to take note of all the things that you're eating at the time. And then you gradually figure out like what's not working, what do I need to remove? Because lots of times we can't see that we're wasting time or we don't, you know, I hope that made
No, it
sense.
makes sense. We can't really see time anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we
That's a
can't
good
even,
one.
we're not even, you know, quite realistic with when it comes to what we eat as well,
Exactly.
let alone time when we can't even see it.
Yeah.
So I get what you mean. I totally understand what you mean when it comes to actually seeing the activities that you're doing, because in our mind, sometimes an hour can feel like it was just half an hour or it was maybe 10
Yes.
hours. So I get it. So yeah, time tracking is definitely good for just figuring out, and then later on the other features can also help you. It's basically just what works for you the best. So
Yes.
what would you say are, you know, the advantages of people who actually track their time, or, you know, have this kind of approach to seeing how their day goes and like what they do with the rest of the time and how they implement all of these insights into the rest of their schedule? What are the advantages to doing that, do you think?
There's so many advantages. You can really see like what's making sense for you in business. What product I spent a lot of time on, and I'm probably not getting a return on it. And when I say that, I mean not in a time that's you know, like we can't launch something today and make $1 million off of it tomorrow. I mean, if we could, that would be awesome. But sometimes you need to see where you're spending your time. So, you know, if you should continue pursuing something or if you should just double down on something else that's doing really well for you. And seeing where you're spending time is so important. The other amazing thing about time is that you're also able to see, okay, if I'm spending 4 hours editing a video and I'm late every week on it, I need to outsource it. Right. So, in actually tracking my own time, I started seeing time where this is not, I need to be front facing. I need to be building relationships. I need to be doing interviews. I need to be on camera. I need to be teaching as the face of the business. So, if it's not really involving that specifically, how can I now delegate this to someone else so that they're able to take care of it and I'm able to focus on growing the business, focus on doing things that I love as well, or things that I'm passionate about. So that really made a difference for me, because when I started tracking, I realized, oh, let me hire someone to make tweaks on this website for me, or let me hire someone to be in my inbox. So many of us spend so much time being in our emailed inboxes, and that used to be me, and the anxiety, right? So there's so much that we can learn about our patterns and habits, and that can allow us to grow as well.
I agree totally. And so you said that, so you don't, what else do you use Clockify for? So and time tracking, so what other kind of things you track while doing your business? And how did Clockify help you with that? How do you feel?
Yeah, it helps me in so many ways. So we use it on the team as well. And so we're able to track and see like everyone's overall hours. My assistant is able to see what work I'm doing. So she can also see like what she needs to bill for externally, like, you know, what invoices she needs to draft up. Sometimes we're working on a project and we just want to know like how much time are we actually spending on that specific project. So I love that I'm able to separate it out by projects and see what, because I just mentioned, right? We have so much going on. So I kind of need to know like what's taking up the most time, what's taking up the least time. Like, and I like to be very mindful of those things. I love also being able to, like I said before, pre-schedule and see what we have going on. And if there's a change in my calendar, I love that it reflects on Clockify. So, you know, there's so many things about the app that I love. And it's funny because if an app is not doing what I want it to do, I'll ditch it. And I've been using Clockify for years. So
that's so nice to hear. I'm happy you didn't ditch us. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
I'm happy that you didn't ditch Clockify.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. And I love it so much. I even shared it with my audience.
Oh yeah, we saw. So thank you so much for that. So what features are your favorite when it comes to Clockify? Do you have a favorite?
I love being able to track my time. You know, while it's running. There are times where I still need to do that, like I mentioned before. I love being able to just see overall how many hours I'm giving to a project so that I can stay in alignment with how that's affecting my time specifically. I love being able to see other people's time or you know, like what they've been working on or doing, because you do need to check on that sometimes. Gosh, I'm trying to think what else. I love that you guys also have is it an app in Chrome? So I can't, it's not an app, it's a Chrome extension.
Chrome extension, yeah.
Yes. I love the Chrome extension so that I usually keep it open in my browser, but I do love the Chrome extension for ease as well. And I love that you are still able to choose your project and choose what you're working on in there too. So there are a few things that I really love about the platform itself.
That's cool. That's nice to hear. So in one of your videos, since you mentioned it, you know, a couple of seconds ago, so you talked a lot about time management techniques, and one of the ones that you mentioned, and you just said to me as well now, was time blocking. Do you have any other time management techniques that you find useful and that help you be productive?
Yeah, I mean, honoring time too is something that, you know, I will continuously work at, right? If you say you're going to do something, then do it. And so putting it into Clockify for me makes it real. Like, man, like I'm not gonna go through changing all of this. So I might as well as do it. Even like being consistent and going back to us talking about routines, like if you're doing email marketing on Thursdays, then do it on Thursdays. Like be consistent with it, because if you're working for someone else, there are things that you're gonna have to do, right? And you're gonna have to give a report of time. So why aren't you doing it for yourself? So this is where I see you know, using a tool like Clockify is really, really important. So, you know, yeah.
Keeps you on track, right? For yourself.
Yes.
Especially if you're working for yourself.
Yeah. Super important.
So, but again, your business is quite creative, right? So all of the processes that you're involved in are very creative. So they're not really predictable. So how do you go about handling the, you know, the dynamics of such a creative field when it comes to planning and being productive and time management?
Yeah, that's always a thing. So I'm always, I feel like I change with the season in how I do things. So sometimes I'll have to flip my day upside down. So sometimes I know like the morning for me is so quiet, and it's where I get to really like absorb all the thoughts that everyone probably isn't processing in that time. So that's really creative time for me. So making sure that I create that time to create. A lot of us say, oh, I don't feel creative, but it's because you're not inviting your creativity, right? So scheduling time to do creative activities. And then I have different types of creative activities. I might have to create marketing for us, but also I may have to create a strategy for someone else. And so for me, like those things come at different times in the day. Like I don't do meetings very early in the morning because I need that time to be creative and get my thoughts out of my head and things like that. For me, when I do meetings in the morning, I end up feeling like I didn't do anything because I'm so tired by the time I'm done with all the meetings, but I have no energy. Right. So it's really about using your time wisely as it pertains to creativity.
So what about on the days that you just sit, you just don't feel creative, even though you've, set apart the time for it, and you're supposed to have, a 1 hour session with yourself and with, your
Yeah.
imagination and your creative, side of you. What about on those days? What do you do to motivate yourself besides not
Yeah.
really feeling up for it? What do you do to, push yourself to do it?
I love that you asked that because those days do come around,
They do.
and more often than I would like. But those days are the days I realize that my cup is empty. So that might mean scheduling, instead of creative time, scheduling time to take in something for inspiration. So that's where I would look up artist interviews, or I would look up, or I'll probably tap into music videos, or I'll probably go take a master class. So that's where I need to pour into myself. And I usually also do that on my CEO day, which is Monday. There's a time for education in there. So it's really important that we're always learning and growing so that we're able to pour into others. So that is super important.
Okay, so you basically use all of your time, even on the days that you're not feeling it. You kind of found a good way to use even that time. So you're super productive, which is amazing. I'm sure you'll be an inspiration to a lot of our viewers. So would you say that it's important for people that are in creative professions or in creative businesses to track their billable time and then their non-billable time? So this might go under like the non-billable time, right? Finding inspiration online or watching a video. Do you think it's important to track that time as well?
I think it is because what it did for me is, because I'm naturally creative. I'm a creative at heart, and so I had to learn how to be a business owner, right? And so lots of times with creatives, we spend so much time on activities that are not generating income, right? So if we're not tracking it like that, we don't realize like how much is billable and how much is and how much is not billable, or what percentage of time you should be spending on billable versus not billable. Or like, let's even think about like marketing in itself. A lot of creatives don't market themselves enough. And so when we think about that, like how much time are you putting into activities that would help you to show up and get more customers or clients? So I do think that you should be tracking like the differences. And I do love that you can break it down in Clockify. So it's just not billable and non-billable, but you can actually list your project, your tasks, everything, so that you're able to really start thinking about what you need to really spend time doing. And I think also for people who are probably not making a lot of money just yet, start tracking your time anyway, because when you see that difference of non-billable to billable, you'll start remembering, oh my gosh, if I'm running a business, then this thing needs to be making a profit, so that's another way to think about it. And this is just me also thinking about like clients and students that I hear from all of the time. Lots of the core issue is time and what you're spending that time doing.
So all roots of all of their problems lead to bad time management, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. So what would you like to say to, the top 3 most valuable tips that you'd wish someone who is just starting their own business, that you wish someone shared with you when you were starting your own?
Yeah. What to do with your 24 hours.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Like, what do I do with my 24 hours? The second thing, like if we're keeping it time focused, the second thing was, I wish I could have seen someone else's calendar, like a successful person's calendar, because maybe I can mirror that instead of figuring it out myself. Like, even though I was able to tap into my dad, we're in totally different industries. He's a mechanical engineer and spends most of his time on the sea or in the water building boats. That's not what I'm doing. So his time is different from mine, right? So probably seeing someone in my industry's calendar to see what they're spending the most time doing. I think that's so enlightening, because we think that people are spending that time working, and they're probably spending that time negotiating, meeting other creatives, doing things that keep the brand and the business at the forefront, rather than, tweaking their website. So I don't know what I have with the website today. But and the third thing would be, time is of the essence.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, I wish somebody had told me that earlier. Like, I had to figure that out. So time is everything. The amount of time you take to do something, the time you're spending on specific things in your business, time is really of the essence. So make sure that you're putting time at the forefront of everything that you're doing. If I had gotten it like said just like that early, I'm sure I would have been further faster.
You feel that you would have been even, at a better place than where you are now, right?
Yeah, because and I don't want to say wasted, but there was a lot of time that I could have spent doing other things, and I could have hired before I was ready.
I see. I see. Oh, well, these are great tips. I think that I really like the calendar, having a view into somebody else's calendar. That would be amazing. I think
So
that
good.
it's a shame we can't see that. I think more people that are very
Definitely.
successful and are doing things right should just share their calendar. It's all we need. I'd
That would
love
be
to
so
see that.
good.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
That's a good Clockify series.
That is, we might, I might consider that. I'll let my colleagues know. They'll see this video anyway, so it's actually a really good idea. So before we wrap this up, I would just like to ask you, what would you say? What are your 2 cents? Like, why should small and medium-sized businesses use Clockify from your point of view?
I think that it's such a flexible tool. The free plan is too good to be true, so your investment is very low. It just start, if you're a smaller business, just really start tracking your time so that you're able to see, like we mentioned, what you're spending time on. I think that it's a no-brainer, right? Like, why not start using it, because it's so good. It's too good to be true, right? I have one other company that I said that to, and they changed their pricing. So, but it's just too good to be true. It's too good for you not to be using. The other thing is, just as you're starting out on your journey, thinking about how important time is, and how successful the person that can manage time is. Right. Because that it really comes down to that. I can't say it enough. And for medium-sized businesses, I love that you can track your time. You can see other people's time. You're able to do so many different things. You're able to manage different projects. There's so much you can do within the tool. I don't see the reason to not use it at all.
Thank you so much. So it was really nice to talk to you today. I really, really appreciate it. We all appreciate it here from Clockify. It was super fun. We learned so much from you. I really like, some of your ideas and your advice. I think they're super useful to me. So I'm hoping that our viewers will also feel the same way. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you today.
Thank you so much. It was really awesome connecting with you guys. I love your tool and will continue being a champion for it.
Thank you so much. It was lovely to meet you. And again, I hope you have a nice day, evening. I'm not really sure what time it is for you there.
Morning.
Okay. I hope you have a great morning. And yeah, it was lovely to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Take care.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this interview as much as we did. Make sure that you follow us on our social media and follow our YouTube channel.